How we related the costumes to seeing below the surface. It was quite literal going on. Yeah, they do, yeah, but how? Like how? Good. So they've got lots of skin on show, haven't they? Like it's very bare. The costumes, like their legs are out, their arms are out. Yeah. So it doesn't. The costumes don't take away from the action content. So they're very plain and boring. So we're not that like overwhelmed by the costumes. So you focus a lot on what they're actually dancing. They reveal a lot of skin. So we've got arms and legs free. So that makes them vulnerable. It makes the dancers seem vulnerable, and we like see below the surface because we're seeing like a lot of their body, which helps us appreciate that kind of choreography. Joe, what I'm going to be nice because we've had a bit of a change up. We're not going to do choreographic intent, we're just going to do appreciation. So you can talk about the entire dance, just how we appreciate it. So you can link it to the choreographic intention or stimulus or the moves or anything like that. Okay? So write this question down. But change, so it's discuss how the costume and different types of oral setting contribute to the audience appreciation of infra. So just change choreographic intent to audience appreciation and infra. So the first bit's all the same, up to here. And then where it says contribute to the, change choreographic intention to audience appreciation of Alina Kerber. And then once you've written the question down, so changing choreographic intent to audience appreciation, and then of infra. And then once you've done that, can you remember the structure for long answer questions test? Yeah, and what did can you remember the letters? What word it started out? Epic, yes. What did the E stand for? Anyone remember? Actually, let you write down the question first. Kind of, but not evident. Hang on, right? Has everyone finished writing down the question? Oh. Yeah, it's infra. We haven't done Alina Kerber. Infra yet. That would be a bit harsh if I asked you to discuss the costumes of Alina Kerber. Yeah, so this last line here should be changed to contributes to the audience appreciation of infra. Because we haven't done Alina Kerber, so that would be a bit mean with me. Just to be like, yeah, tell me about the music of Alina Kerber, even though we're doing it for our. Yeah, right. So the question was epic. What does this stand for? So what is the E, what is the PI, and what is the C? Can we remember? What's the E? What's the E? Kind of. It is, yeah. So PI is personal translation. E is example. So So that's where you give your example of the personal. Yeah, so epic is personal interpretation comes as one. So it's like E, P, I, and then C. But you could just write it as one word, but that's fine. And then C, can anyone remember what C was? Nearly. Contribution. E, example. Interpretation. Because personal interpretation comes as one. Example. One more time. Anyone else? Miss, do you know what E is?
Example.
Right, so when we plan in this structure. So, what have we got to talk about? What's the question asking us about?
The costumes that we were setting.
Good.
How it contributes to.
Excellent. When we're talking about audience appreciation, what can we link it to? So, stimulus, choreographic attention, or mood. Good. Those three are your top three things that you want to link it to. Okay. Oral setting refers to what?
Like the setting, how it's set out, like the
Oral setting.
sound.
Yeah, the music. Yeah. So oral setting is just a fancy word for music, basically. Okay. So we spoke about the costumes. Let's just quickly recap the music. What is specific about the music in info? Yeah, so the mood of it, it reflects the mood of the piece. What can you remember about right at the start? There's a train whistle. What other things do we hear? A speaker, so like an announcement, yeah. Yeah, so we call it white noise at the start. It's like that crackly, like, and then you hear, well, I think I hear anyway, doors closing. You hear the train whistle right at the start. So I'm just talking about it currently. So if you just want to make notes of it, you can, but we'll plan it together anyway. What kind of instruments do we think are used in info? Violins, yeah. So they're using violins. Like string instruments. Electric sounds good. And what about things like, can you remember rhythms? We have a rhythm, instruments, dynamics, other sounds, melody, speed. They are your things that you can talk about. So when we're talking about things like the dynamics, for example, how would you describe the dynamics of the music in info? Can you remember that whiny violin noise? You could call it like whiny violin. That's just how I describe violins, because I think they're horrific. Yeah. How would you describe it? Is it quite like abrupt? Is it flowing? Is it like, it's quite slow, isn't it? Yeah. So the opening section is slow. That 6 duet section is fast. And then the end one, again, is very slow. The melody of that end section, do you remember when we did the bit about like where you wipe the grave and you wipe a tear, and it's like like that's it, isn't it? It just goes up like that. So the melody of it is quite like, it goes from low to high, but it's quite prolonged, that kind of thing. So, we've got a fair bit, because we haven't got loads of time anyway, so it doesn't matter. What I want you to do is plan a epic, one example for costume, and then one example for oral setting, and then really write those 2 paragraphs. Then if you've written those 2, I know normally you'd go all of costume, all of lighting, all of oral setting, sorry. You'd go all costume, all oral setting, but for the time being, because we haven't got that long, we're probably only going to get 2 paragraphs done. So write your, I would split your page in 2, so write your costume and your oral setting, and then you're going to plan it. So pick an example of costume. So your example of costume is literally going to be describing a costume that one of the dancers wears, for your example. What do they wear, Lily? Can you remember? Were you here when we started talking about that? I think you were. What do the dancers wear in infra? Not a lot, because you're blue. Yep, and it's actually a vest top, but yeah, so shorts and vest top. And then your personal interpretation needs to be referring to something to do with our appreciation. So the vest top and yes, your personal interpretation is the part where we're saying that the fact that they're not wearing much suggests to us that they're very vulnerable, and we're seeing links to the choreographic attention seen below the surface, because we can see every single line of their body. So if their leg was bent, we'd be able to see it. So it's like all of the wrongs that they could create, we would see, so they're very vulnerable, which reflects this idea of seeing below the surface that actually they can't hide anything, basically. So where's your crown? Yeah, fine. So write E here, so you know that's your example. And then put P.I., P.I. Okay, so what are we going to relate this to? Do you want to relate it to a stimulus? Do you want to relate it to the mood? Do you want to relate it to the choreographic intention? I just gave you one for the choreographic intention. I literally said it there. So, if they're not wearing much, what are we able to see? Yeah. So it makes them what? What did I say? Good. So that would be your personal interpretation.